So we're Thursday the 22nd of February and it's 12:30 p.m, lunchtime. And you might be wondering, Charles, what are you doing out in the midday sun? Whether it's wildlife, whether it's landscape, you're never out in this heat. There's flat light. It's useless. Well, not useless today. My camera is pointing straight up. What sort of landscape could you be photographing straight up? The sun. From yesterday to today, we've had a sun halo. Today, it's back out here. There's a few clouds, but you can still see the sun halo. Sun halos aren't that hard to photograph, really. You can use your phone and just point to the sky and take a photo. But what you're going to get is something like this. Can you see the sun is blown out? That is a normal photo. That is what you get if you use your phone, even your camera, and you just point to the sun and take a photo. Because the sun is so bright, it's going to blow it out. And if you meter for the sun not to blow out, then everything else will be nearly black. The only way that you can take a proper image of a sun halo is bracketing, HDR, high dynamic range. Yesterday I took a few. Then later in the afternoon, I went down, it was around 5:30, the sun's getting low in the sky, it was still there. So I sent the drone up 60 meters high and I got this great panorama. Today I want to show you how I got the great sun halo image and how you can do it too. And it's not that hard. People think that bracketing is difficult. It's not. I'm set up on my U1 mode on my Z6 II, and this is the mode that I use for landscape photography when I want to bracket or when I want to do long exposures. We'll go ahead and we'll set the camera up. These are the camera settings that I use for bracketing the sun halo photos today. Picture control is set to landscape. White balance is set to natural light auto. The metering is set to matrix. AF mode is set to manual or wide area AF. My focusing mode, if using autofocus, is AFS. My shutter release mode is continuous high. Now, you don't need anything more than f8. You could even shoot at f5.6 when you're photographing the sun because you're so far away that you've got depth of field. We'll settle for f8 and saying here, I'm at ISO 100. I'm going to have to take the cover off here so I can line up the sun halo. The sun's moving. This is what's good about the Z6 II. I've just got the flip screen and I'm just looking here. What I'm trying to do is get the sun halo in the center of the frame. Now you can see my camera's on an angle. It really doesn't matter. There's no horizontals here. As long as the sun halo is in the middle. And to show you what I mean about using different metering modes like spot metering, center weighted or matrix, I'm going to show you how they look like. So this is matrix metering at f8, 1,250th of a second. Go to center weighted. My camera is telling me 3,200th of a second. We go to spot metering. It can't go any higher than 1,800th of a second. The only way that you can take a proper image of a sun halo is bracketing. So I'm going to take 3 sets of bracketed images. One with 3, one with 5, one with 7. Your center image. For 3, it will be number 2. For 5, it'll be number 3. For 7, it'll be number 4. Is that your center image is the one that's correctly exposed. Let's get to it. I'm set up for 3. I've got one EV value different. Now my shutter speed here is telling me 2.5 thousandths of a second. That is going to be the fastest shutter speed. So let's take it. That's it. Now, let's take a look at the photos. So this is the first frame out of 3, one EV underexposed, one 2.5 thousandths of a second. The second frame correctly exposed at 1/1250th of a second. The third frame, one EV overexposed at 1/640th of a second. Let's quickly go to 5. Now it's showing me that my darkest image is 5,000th of a second. Can you see the difference? We've multiplied by 2. Let's take a look at these photos. This is the first frame out of 5. 2 EVs underexposed at 1/5000th of a second. The second frame, 1 EV underexposed at 1/2.5 of a second. The third frame, correctly exposed at 1/1250th of a second. The fourth frame, 1 EV overexposed at 1/640th of a second. And the fifth frame, 2 EVs overexposed at 1/320th of a second. But this blended is going to look amazing. Now let's go to 7 frames, and instead of having 1 EV between, we're going to have 0.7. Now I'm going to reduce that to 0.7. Now it's still telling me 5,000ths of a second. Why do you think that is? Well, the reason is between the 5 and the 7, I'm going to get exactly the same exposures. But instead of 5 frames, I've got 7. So I'm going to get a very smooth transition between the darkest image and the brightest image. A lot of time if I'm hand holding for HDR or bracketed photography, I'll just use 1 exposure. But if I'm on a tripod, I will go down to 0.7 because that's going to give me a smoother transition. Now I'll put a link here to how to photograph HDR images in case you're really wanting to see how to go about photographing HDR images and blending them. Let's go ahead and take this one. Now let's look at the settings. This is the first frame, -2 EVs underexposed, 1/5000th of a second. The second frame, -1.3 EVs underexposed, 1/3200th of a second. The third frame, -0.7 EVs underexposed, 1/2000th of a second. The fourth frame, correctly exposed at 1/1250th of a second. The fifth frame, +0.7 EV overexposed at 1/800th of a second. The sixth frame, +1.3 EVs overexposed at 1/500th of a second. The seventh frame, +2 EVs overexposed at 1/320th of a second. You can see that it's not rocket science, and you can see how easy it is. So here are the images that I took today, both the single exposures and the bracketed images. The first image you're going to see is the RAW file. The second image is the RAW file edited in Adobe Lightroom Classic. Now you might be wondering why I'm in my office and not still outside. Well, when I started editing these photos the next day, I saw that the clouds had thickened up a bit. They were still quite high and thin, but they stopped a lot of the halo effect that I really wanted. And I'll show you these photos, but I'm also lucky that I took about the same shots the day before. And these are the shots that I'm going to show you and talk about because they really show what a sun halo is. And I'll also show you why I state that you should use matrix metering instead of center weighted or spot metering. Let's start off with the photos that I took yesterday. So this is the first set, 3 frames bracketed with 1 EV difference. You can see the shutter speeds here. And this is what the HDR image looked like. Pay attention to this because you will see that even in the short time from when I did the 3 bracketed image to go to the 7, the clouds thickened up. So this is what it looked like finished up. But you can still see the sun halo. And some people might like this because it's not just blue sky and the halo. There's just a little bit of clouds over the halo. This is the 5 frame bracketed. You can see the shutter speeds there and the EV. This is the final shot. And you can see that we have more detail in the halo. Now this is the 7 frame bracketed. And remember I stated I didn't bracket at 1 EV. I bracketed 0.7 to give me a smoother transition. And this is the final image. And you can see between the 3 and the 7, the sun in the 3 is just like a white circle, whereas in the 7 shot, but we've got little star forms coming out of the center. That's really what you want. And that's why you shoot more than 3. You shoot like 5 or 7 to get more detail because you're getting darker images and brighter images and merging them together. Now here are the bracketed images that I shot the day before. So this is the 3 frame bracketed with 1 EV difference. The cloud is just over the sun, which in matrix metering means that we get a more even exposure. This is the 3 frame bracketed edited in Adobe Lightroom and then rendered in Photomatix Pro. Because the cloud is covering the sun, we still see the nice sun halo, but we don't get that white spot in the middle. We've just got the cloud and it's stopping that really bright sunlight. It's giving us a much better exposure. I really like this image. Now this is the 5 frame bracketed. This 5 frame bracketed set I shot differently to the 3 and to the 7 because I wanted a different version of the sun halo. And you can see that I've cut the sun halo in half because I want some foreground. We can still see the halo because I'm photographed directly into the sun but slightly pointing down. I'm getting little teardrops because I'm getting the light reflecting on the lens. So this is the 7 frame bracketed set at 0.7 EV difference. It's a gradual increase, so it's going to blend much better. And here is the final image. This is what a sun halo image should look like. This is why I stated that to get a great sun halo image, you need to bracket, because there's no way you can get this sort of image without bracketing. This was taken with my Tokina 17-35 at 17 mils. This is why I say that when you're photographing sun halos, you want to find the widest lens possible. So the first 3 photos are the ones that I took the day before the sun halo tutorial. This is the 3 frame, this is the 5 frame, this is the 7th frame. Now here are the images from yesterday when I was doing the tutorial. This is the 3 frame, this is the 5 frame, and this is the 7th frame. And you can see the 7th frame, we can just see a bit of that start, but there's just so much cloud. It's so different compared to the day before. Now, if you're not confident in shooting HDR photography, then you can just take a single exposure, but you're not going to get the amount of detail. But I want to show you why you should use matrix metering instead of center weighted or spot metering. And if you're using matrix metering, you should shoot at 1 EV underexposed because you can bring out some of the shadows. So the camera here is in spot metering mode, and this is the raw file. The sun looks great, but the rest of the image is just pure black. Now I've brought up the exposure to 0, and you can see it looks quite nice, but if we zoom into it, you will see the amount of noise that is in the photo. Can you see the amount of noise? It's just incredible. With this amount of noise, you're going to have to use noise reduction software through Lightroom, or like I do, I use Topaz Denoise, and that is going to soften up your image quite a bit. This is center weighted. Now we can see some of that cloud around. It looks a little bit better, correctly exposed. It looks all right, but when I zoom in, I can still see quite a bit of noise. Here is the matrix metered image with 1 EV underexposed. I can see the clouds, I can see the sun. Even though this image is not processed, I can see the nice halo around the sun. Now here is the image processed. And when we zoom in, we can see that there is hardly any noise in this image. Now the last image here is matrix metering correctly exposed. Look, it's very bright, and now we're starting to lose detail in the sun. The image is correctly exposed, but we're blowing out the sun. So when it's edited, we have a much bigger white circle where the sun is compared to the one stop underexposed. But when we zoom in, we can see that we have hardly any noise, and there's very little difference between the 1 EV underexposed and the correctly exposed image regarding the amount of noise level. So I hope this video shows you how easy it is to photograph a sun halo, whether you just shoot in single frame or whether you take that extra step and you bracket images to get a much better sun halo photo like this one here. If you're going to take single shot, remember you have to use matrix metering. If you're using a Nikon camera, if you're using a Canon camera, it's just called evaluative metering, meaning you're measuring the whole frame. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give a big thumbs up, stay safe, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you next time.